Hey guys, we're live. Welcome back. So our usual Wednesday night slot. I believe we are back. This is maybe episode 8 or 9 of the Property Sourcing Show, which is my podcast. But it's also the place that I jump on once a week inside our Property Sourcing Made Simple community and do a free live training every single Wednesday night. So guys, tonight, as you will know, if you were on last week's training, we covered part 1 of raising finance via joint venture partnerships, or raising finance as a whole if you're a property sourcer, a deal packager, or someone who is looking to raise finance via their property business. Okay, so guys, last week we did part 1 of raising finance 101. We've had great feedback from that. We've had a lot of people requesting the replay. What's been even more important to see is that a lot of people have actually been messaging me privately to let me know that they have been implementing the stuff that we went through in the first section. Okay, so if you're joining tonight, guys, and you're tuning in and you didn't see part 1 of the raising finance, which we did training last week, shoot below, just let me know that you didn't get to see the first part, and we'll make sure one of the team will get it across to you. That won't be an issue. All right, so guys, if you're joining in live, let me know that you're on the live. Give me a like, give me a heart, give me a gift, give me anything to let me know that I have got friends tonight. But here's what we're going to do, guys. The premise of my weekly trainings are usually that we try to keep it short, sharp, actionable and bite size. Okay, so everything that I come at you with every single week in terms of training should be short, should be bite size, but should be actionable. All right, so if you're tuning in and you're listening to live trainings and you're doing absolutely fuck all with the information that I'm giving you, excuse my French, then there's really not any point tuning in. Okay, ideally speaking, the live trainings are for action takers. I like to surround myself with people who are taking action. Don't pay lip service. All right, if you want to make a success of your property journey, you absolutely need to implement. So let's recap on the 3 top tips we did last week in relation to raising finance. And they were, off the top of my head, compiling your investor pack immediately. Okay, people place far too little emphasis on the actual weight that having a solid, good quality investor pack will have when it comes to raising finance. A really good investor pack, a really well done investor pack will actually do the talking for you. Okay, number 2 was tapping into your sphere of influence. Massively underutilized. Most people snigger at it. A lot of people say, oh, really, tap into my sphere of influence? Is that all you've got for me? Well, the reality is that the guys inside my mentorship program and my coaching program, by using that strategy alone, have raised hundreds of thousands of pounds just by tapping into their sphere of influence. So until you've raised some money, don't turn your nose up at it. So that's step number 2, tapping into your sphere of influence. And number 3, guys, was getting visible online. Okay, so I spoke on the training last week and I had said, look, getting online and getting visible prior to COVID was the fastest way to get yourself fast-tracked in terms of knowledge and credibility. After COVID, and as we're, I like to say, maybe 3/4 of the way through this fucking pandemic at the moment, we're certainly returning to some form of normality. Online will remain the quickest and the cheapest way to get yourself out there and marketed. All right, so to recap, 3 things: compiling your investor pack immediately, tapping into your sphere of influence, and getting yourself online and online immediately. So what I'm going to do now, guys, for the next 20 to 30 minutes, remember my sessions, my trainings are short and sharp most of the time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys the next 3 tips that you need to be incorporating and putting in place to help you raise joint venture finance, to help you seek out investors if you're looking for investors for your property sourcing or your deal packaging business. Okay, so we'll cover 3 more top strategies tonight, tie them all together. The only way that they will work is if you implement them. So what I'm going to do, guys, I am going to try and share my screen, and I'll try and do it pretty quickly. Okay, I will disappear off camera, much to your delight, and we will kick off tonight's training. All right, guys, let's do it. Let's dive into the remaining 3 top tips that you need to have in place to help raise joint venture finance or seek out investors. All right, guys, jump in, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, yes, you read that right. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Let me assure you guys that nothing great ever came from the warm security blanket of comfort. That's a fact. Okay, I'll tell you where comfort got me in the last 12 months. Comfort got me almost a stone heavier than where I should like to be, right? That's where comfort got me. It's not a good place. It's not a good place, all right? Comfort will bring non-progress. Comfort will bring plateauing. Comfort will bring stunted growth. So what does it look like to make yourself uncomfortable when you're perhaps starting your property sourcing journey, when you're perhaps embarking on your property investment journey, when you are perhaps looking to put yourself out there to raise finance for your property business, okay? So making yourself uncomfortable in that sphere involves doing the video content. It involves doing the presentation. It involves reaching out to the person you have been putting off contacting. These are all the things that for you initially feel uncomfortable, but they are the things that you need to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable about. All right, bit of an oxymoron in there, but it's fact. Okay. Now, another thing that many people absolutely die in horror of is, you know, maybe standing up at networking events and giving your elevator pitch. Now, I've spoken inside the community. I've spoken openly in my own personal profiles about perfecting your elevator pitch, that your elevator pitch should run off your tongue as easily as your name and your date of birth does. Now, I'm going to come to my own experience of this in a few moments, right? But let's keep it simple, guys. For so many of us, we make it so hard. So if we want to improve our skills and make life-changing connections, and if we want to smash our goals, then we simply have to become accustomed to being uncomfortable. The reality is, guys, that most people say they want X, Y, and Z, but most people will also not do the things that will bring them their goals. That's a fact. And I think we're all guilty of it at some point. You have to be fucking hungry. You have to be hungry, okay? So speaking from my experience, guys, this tip alone, that being uncomfortable with, or getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, that particular strategy and tip has generated me more investor opportunities than any other. Okay, so getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I'll talk you through my process and my experience, has generated me more investor opportunities than any other by making a choice to just do it. No credit to Nike for that, but by making a choice to just do it, I had to put myself, guys, in situations which I guess deep down I always knew would generate me opportunity, but I had, you know, previously been much too fearful to do it. Okay, so once I actually cracked this nut, or was pretty much pushed over the edge of the cliff, if the truth is really told, but once I cracked that nut, I was actually angry at myself for not having done it sooner. So to help aid this type of process, guys, this is where the help of an accountability buddy really, really comes into play. An accountability partner, someone who will, you know, hold you to the things that you said you were going to do, someone who will call you out when you make the inevitable excuses, and I promise you there will be excuses. Okay, that's what worked a treat for me. Okay, I actually did an article in the Blue Bricks property magazine maybe last month or the month before, and it was entirely centered around accountability and how incorporating accountability into my property, my business, was the catalyst to success for me. And I truly believe that having an accountability buddy somewhere in your journey, it just pays dividends. Okay, so once I started feeling embarrassed by I guess it was my lack of seize the moment attitude, you know, my ever-changing ream of excuses, I made the decision that I wouldn't be embarrassed by my lack of get up and go ever again. If you're watching this on the live, guys, or if you're watching this back in the replay, give me a hands up, give me a that was me, give me a this is so me if you're known to be a bit of an excuse maker. That is where so many people fall. And listen, I'm not perfect, okay? I'm not perfect. I make excuses more than I absolutely should, but certainly less than I used to. So if you are going through this process right now and you find yourself being the eternal excuse maker, let us know in the comments below, okay? There's no shame in the game, so we're not going to out you for this. I'm not going to slaughter you publicly. That's really more what I do behind the scenes in our coaching program. But let us know in the comments below if you are someone at the moment who is maybe making one too many excuses. Okay, so once I kind of felt that embarrassment, guys, I made a pledge that I will do it. because I have now tasted what's on the other side of fear. It's very, very important that once you dip your toes in the water of, oh, opportunity lake and opportunity pond, it's very, very hard to go back to the lack of opportunity on the other side. Okay, so opportunity and fear, and what's at the other side of fear is actually much more appetizing than comfort. Okay, now, check that shirt out. All right, now I'm going to talk you through my own personal experience, guys, of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. This was at a networking event. I now host our own networking event here in the city of Belfast. Granted, it's been on pause face-to-face since COVID struck, but we are looking to get it back up and running for August and September. But I'm now the host of a networking event, but right here, right then, in that god-awful shirt with those sunglasses, I was not. I look at that picture now and I can't believe that I went to a networking event and did a presentation with that shirt and those sunglasses on my head. All right. Now, let me talk you through this process, guys. When I first began my journey in sourcing, I was a wallflower, which is quite ironic because for those of you that know me or have been following me for a period of time, you will know I am not shy and I am not of a retiring nature. But when I was thrown into the deep end of a world that I knew absolutely nothing about, remember, I'm an ex-financial analyst for the New York Stock Exchange. I had no property experience whatsoever. When I was thrown into that pond, I found myself becoming shyer, quieter, more reserved, closed off. So just as a bit of an alert, this is not the demeanor that you should have if you want to be successful in property. Okay, you must have the ability to converse. You must have the ability to relate to people. And it was becoming more and more apparent to me, guys, that I was actually stunting my own growth by continuously backing away from, you know, I guess it was the safety net of my comfort zone. All right, so I knew that had to change. The biggest choice, guys, the biggest choice that I made was to put myself forward for a presentation in a room filled with 74, to be precise, 74 property professionals, all of whom I had convinced were screaming internally, who is this woman? What does she have to say? Why is she at the front of the room in that shirt? I would have been thinking that. Guys, for weeks, days, hours, months that preceded this event, I was a complete and utter bag of nerves. I could have pulled the plug at any moment in time. In fact, right then and there, in that moment before I took center stage, I would have been incredibly thankful for the announcement of a global pandemic and an immediate national lockdown. All right, I would have been very thankful for that. The reality is it didn't happen. And I was set to take stage unless something catastrophic had happened. I honestly, guys, I remember standing vividly at the back of this event. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I can still remember the fear that was translating through my body, and it was resulting in the shakes and an eye twitch and sweats. Okay, before I was due to speak, I was thinking, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Why, Danielle? Why are you doing this to yourself? But I did it, guys. I stood at the front of the room. There were 74 people in that room, most of whom I had never met before in my life, filled with my peers. By the way, the only form of public speaking that I had done prior to this presentation was ordering a McDonald's drive-through. Okay, like, I'm not shitting you. This is the truth. This is the truth. That was the height of my public speaking capabilities up until this point. I got up there, guys. I got comfortable with being uncomfortable. I stood at the front of the room. I presented who I was, what I do, the deals that I typically tend to seek out, how they generally tended to look, how our numbers looked to stack up. Guys, here's the important thing. Not only did I not die during this presentation, and look, there was a real possibility of that. If I didn't take a heart attack with the stress and the fear, then there was a real possibility that somebody was going to sniper me because of that horrendous shirt that I was wearing. All right. So not only did I not die during that presentation, I walked away from that event, guys, with a new investor. gospel truth. This lady approached me during the coffee break, inquired about the services that I offered in the area of Belfast in which I offered them. We spoke really, really briefly. You'll typically know that like the coffee breaks during networking events are 15-minute max, and you really should be trying to get around as many people as possible in that 15 minutes. So we spoke really, really briefly on the types of properties that I look to source, which for any of those guys who don't know, when I began my journey, I started sourcing buy-to-lets. I've now come full circle and I invest in them. So we shook hands there and then, and I onboarded this lady as an official client of mine the very next morning. The very next morning. Now we'll come on to the next importance of the 24-hour gap in our next strategy, but I onboarded this lady officially the next morning. Now, by the way, as a side note to that introduction that night, that presentation, guys, I'll further go on to tell you that this lady alone has since gone on to invest in excess of £100,000 via private lending with me over the last 2 years alone. Okay? So that was from being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So once you ask yourself, guys, the question, would 5 minutes of seeming pain, remember, fear is a fabrication in our own heads. You can't physically feel fear. Fear is a fabrication in our own heads. So would 5 minutes of apparent fear be worth the rewards that you could gain thereafter? In my head, it's 100% yes every single day. I did a 10-minute presentation, and over the course of 2 years, it generated me in excess of £125,000 for fucking 10 minutes of feeling fear. That was worth it all day long to me, all day long. By the way, guys, I was riddled with self-doubt, but I had the mental strength in that moment and the glaring eye of a coach, which, yeah, he was hard, he was hardcore, and I leant into the fear and I did it anyway. So my point, guys, of telling you this is to highlight the fact that without having made myself extremely uncomfortable, and I do not exaggerate that, I was extremely uncomfortable, without having forced myself to step outside my comfort zone, without having experienced a little bit of fear, I almost certainly, this is a fact, I almost certainly would not have progressed at the rate in which I have in the last 4 years. Okay, I cannot emphasize this strongly enough, guys. You have to start pushing your comfort zones, because I can assure you that if you allow yourself to feel fleeting pain and fleeting discomfort, opportunity will follow it. That's almost a fact. Where do you want to be when opportunity knocks? That's the question that I want you to answer, guys. Do you want to be on the sofa with a pizza, binging on Netflix, which, by the way, there is no harm in. I've done a considerable amount of binging with Netflix in the last 12 months. Okay, we are entitled to a life, but there has to be a switch. When you have that dial, you have to be able to turn it down on your less important tasks and turn it up on the things that you really don't want to do, but you know if you do, you know if you turn that dial toward discomfort, there will be opportunity. I have done both, guys. I have been the binge comfort girl, and I choose discomfort every single day. Every single day. Now, on the side work, guys, of networking, the only task that you need to concern yourself with at networking events, whether they are face-to-face, which I'm sure we will start to see again very soon, or whether you continue to do them virtually, your only piece of mission at a networking event is to collect and distribute business cards. Now, business cards might be considered quite old school, so let's simplify it a little bit more. Your only task at a networking event is to collect contact details. Okay? Contact details, that's a fact. So not to sound like a broken record, guys, although I'm aware that I might, if you have not gotten the fact that you need to be networking like your life depended on it yet, then I can't help you. Okay, I can't help you. There are no excuses. There is no shortcut here, guys. If you're looking for a shortcut, if you're looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, if you're looking for the shiny penny or the unicorn, I am not for you. You should X off this live immediately. You should remove yourself from my community, and we should never speak again. This is not what I am about. However, what I can tell you is if you are prepared to put in the work, if you're prepared to accept that there's a work ethic that goes with this, then you can have everything that you desire. But this only works if you do, okay? So guys, adapt right now. If you can't do face-to-face, stick your internet connection on high, okay? Top tip, by the way, guys, is that you should be aiming to attend at least one property networking event a month, but also one non-property networking event. And you might be wondering why, and I'm going to tell you why. At almost every property networking event, and I know because I host one here in the city of Belfast, almost everyone in that room is looking for the money. Okay, so that means that you potentially will spend a large portion of your time trying to hunt down and take contact details from people who actually believe that you are the person with the money. So switch it up a little bit, guys. I tell all my guys inside my coaching program as well, this is something we focus heavily on, is looking outside the property networking events and attending business events, attending female only networking events, if you are of course a female, attending alumni events, attending directors club events, gala dinners, all those types of things. You should also try to be attending on a minimum of a monthly basis. Okay, so switch it up, guys. Also keep in mind, guys, that with most networking events, are hosted online, as we know, in the current climate, but maybe for not much longer. Use the chat box function as a substitute for how you would usually introduce yourself one-on-one to somebody face-to-face. Use the chat function here. Okay, you can also save the chat details by clicking on the 3 dots at the bottom of the chat box, and that's essentially you've got yourself the business card, virtual business card of the person that you were talking to one-on-one. Okay, remember, guys, that as cliche as this sounds, your network is your net worth, and you absolutely should be stacking it up. I have no intention, guys, of dwelling on this point too much. It's fairly self-explanatory. It's a no-brainer, and if you aren't doing it, or if you haven't been doing it, then you're only self-sabotaging your own success in property. Okay, your own success in property. Right, now that we've covered that, let's jump on to the next strategy and tip, guys. Seriously important. This will also touch on me onboarding the lady at the investor event, the networking event, within 24 hours. And it's the power of the 3 Fs. Now, this particular strategy is very rarely spoken about in this industry. I hear absolutely, if not no one, talking about the 3 Fs. It is, however, a strategy that has generated me hundreds of thousands of pounds in the last 4 years. It's also a strategy that has been generating the guys inside our coaching program exceptional success with raising finance, exceptional success with onboarding investors for their property sourcing and deal packaging journey. And it's the power of the 3 Fs, the follow up, the follow through, the follow back. I hear no one speak about this, okay? Now this is a really simple theory, guys, but it's so underutilized by almost everyone I know. Again, with the exception of those that I mentor privately. Out of interest, guys, or out of curiosity, if you have heard of the power of the 3 Fs, shoot me a yes in the comment box below. If you have not heard of the power of the 3 Fs, put a hell no in the comments below. I'm curious to know that who has been utilizing this strategy in their property journey. Now, it would surprise you guys that how many people I talk to when I ask simple questions like, okay, look, when was the last time you spoke to your potential investor? When was the last communication that you had with your potential prospect investor? When was the last time that you followed up with the guys that you met at the business event? The answer always leaves me reeling with shock, because the answer from the guys that I'm trying to help is usually things like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. The worst I've ever heard is 3 months ago. You see, here's the thing, guys. This is a really fast moving business. We are operating in a really fast moving environment, and it doesn't wait for you, but nor should it wait for you. See, property will favor the hungry, guys. Business and entrepreneurship will favor the hungry. It will favor the bold, and it will favor the brave. That's a fact. So it will not favor the procrastinator. It will not favor the wallflower, and it will not listen to me loud and clear, favor the lazy. If you are lazy, it's time to hang your boots up now. You need to be hungry. You need to want investment more than the next person, okay? And you want to get those investors on board with what you have to offer as a service, with what you have to bring to the table. So you better get moving, guys. Now, let's sub-strategize this. The follow-up, okay? Now, this is the process, guys, where you will actively seek out new clients, where you will actively try to entice new clients to consider your services, okay? Now, this particular element will follow heavily on from your activity of networking, of putting yourself out there on social media, of telling everyone what you do. So think of the first 3 strategies that we covered in part 1, your investor pack, you're tapping into your sphere of influence and getting visible on social media. This strategy here, the power of the 3 Fs, will play heavily into the groundwork that you've laid on those first 3 strategies, okay? So it is imperative, guys, that at every networking event, after every conversation had at the bus stop, the coffee shop, the golf club, it is imperative that you follow up with the conversation. In all my experience, this is a particular strategy. And you know, it's the one thing that I found to be consistent was the fact that the money is in the follow-up, okay? The money is in the follow-up. So don't tell me you can't find any investors. Don't tell me you can't raise finance. Don't tell me that no one is interested in what you have to offer, because if I dig deep enough, I will find that you haven't exhausted all of your means, okay? You must follow up with your new connections, guys. You must arrange the call. You must have the coffee. You know, you must at least try to get your foot over the door. Failing to act, guys, on this simple step is suicide. And you are potentially leaving so much money on the table. You're potentially leaving your next deal on the table, your next investor on the table. You're potentially leaving, you know, 10, 20, 50, 100,000 pounds on the table for someone else who was, quite frankly, just a little bit more hungry than you, who had more get up and go. So sub-step 1 of the 3 Fs is the follow-up. Let's jump into sub-step 2, the follow-through. So guys, once you've taken the steps to follow up with your potential investor, it's really vitally important that when you arrange to meet or talk, that you come to the game prepared, the follow through, okay? Follow through with what it is that you told them that you offer, okay? Let's see the portfolio of deals that you have done. And if you haven't done any deals, it's time to get creative. This is where the benefit of a well laid out investor pack will come into play, okay? Follow through with some physical literature on your area, some plus points on your area, why it's a good place to invest. Follow through with some physical literature on you. Again, drawing it back to the investor pack, a really good investor pack, who you are, what your company offers. It's for this very reason, guys, that I placed so much emphasis and put your investor pack as hot strategy number 1, as our very first step in this process and in this training. This is at the point that if it's done well, it will pay dividends for you. Come to the game prepared, guys. Follow through with the hype that you talked when you first met this person in person, or when you first connected with them over Zoom, or when you first connected with them on social media, okay? The importance here, guys, lies in showing up and following through. This is your chance to make an impact. This is your chance to make yourself memorable. This is your chance to demonstrate credibility, likability. So use it. Remember, we are operating on a know, like, trust industry. You have to go and find these opportunities. Right, third sub-step of the power of the 3F strategy is the follow back. Okay, now this is definitely where I see the least activity from people struggling to source investment at present. They either don't follow back at all, or worse than that, guys, they leave the follow back so painfully long between touch points that they've actually lost the lead, and they've lost the attention of the person that they were hoping to onboard as an investor or a client. So let me make this really clear, guys. You have to bring your A game to this business every single day. You need to be driven to succeed. You have to want it more than the next person. And only when you find yourself doing all the right activities, so the strategies that I talked to you about during these 2 training sessions, only when you find yourself doing these activities, which are the correct activities to raise finance, then you have to start doing it in the right quantities. Okay, so another way for me to explain this is it's kind of like the results that you get will be a direct reflection of the level of action you take. Okay, so you try to score 5 goals at a penalty. Okay, you maybe get 2 or 3, but you take 20 shots on goal, you're probably going to get more of a better result overall. Don't you just love my football analogy? You can tell that I'm not a footballer. All right, so when you have your initial meeting, guys, with a potential investor or a potential JV partner, it's really important that you follow back within 48 hours max. Write that down, put it in your memo, 48 hours max. So this keeps you fresh in their minds. It keeps you at the forefront. It highlights your ambition. It highlights your eagerness and your professionalism. Okay, guys, have had people try to court me for investment and have me invest in them, and their follow through and follow back touch points have been as long as 8 to 10 weeks. That's never going to fly if you're looking to onboard and raise finance from a serious investor. Like 8 or 10 weeks, it's like you've become non-existent again. Who are you? Who are you? With the guys that we coach inside our mentorship program, our coaching program, we go through an investor blueprint for like an onboarding process. So we go through the initial call, what that looks like. We go through the initial meeting, how that should flow. We go through the fact-finding questions, which, by the way, you need to be asking. On that particular note, guys, let me know in the comments below. If you're watching this live, if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments. Do you have a structured investor fact-finding process for that initial call or for that initial meeting? Let me know. It's really important that you do. Okay, if you don't have a fact-finding process or blueprint when you're initially talking to investors, you have no way of qualifying if they are serious or if they are time wasters or tire kickers. So let me know in the comments below, are you using a fact-finding blueprint when you're having those initial follow-up points? Now, it's also really important, guys, that the follow-back email, and I want it on email, not by phone call, not by text, not by DMs. I want the follow-back via email. Carefully constructed. It needs to subtly reiterate the initial answers given on the first encounter, because this helps embed into the mind of the investor exactly what it is that you offer, exactly what it is that you can bring to the table, and it allows for the opportunity of objections to be raised and then queries to be handled immediately. Okay? So there's no awkward week or 2 week wait period where the opportunity to address queries, concerns, or objections, you can immediately hit them up within 2 days. If it's me, I do it within 24 hours. I follow up within 24 hours at all times, but worst case scenario, 48 hours, it allows you to allow for any objections that might be raised, but also handle them. Okay, and overcoming the objections and then eventually signing them as an official client. Okay, if you leave the follow back too late, guys, I can almost assure you that you can kiss the opportunity goodbye. Your investor will have gone with the wind, gone with the guy who wanted it more than you. So leave tonight's training, guys. Leave tonight's training knowing that the power of the 3 Fs cannot be underestimated. Cannot be underestimated. I know we're coming close to our time, guys, but I want to drop in a little booster strategy that can help you generate investor opportunity. Now, I want to caveat that this particular strategy should only be done once you've put some time and effort and exhausted all the other strategies that we've spoken about across the training last week and this week. Okay, this is not a strategy that you should be doing regularly. It is a booster strategy, and if it can be very effective if you do it correctly. Okay, and it's the art of the dummy deal. It can be a little bit controversial, but it is a powerful tool to have in your Pandora's box. Okay, if you do it and use it correctly, guys, it can produce you a steady volume of new investor inquiries to add to what should be now a very healthy and expanding investor database. Okay, so What is a dummy deal? Well, it's actually exactly what it says in the tin, guys. It's a dummy deal, a fictional investment opportunity that you can prepare with the sole intention of capturing interest, triggering intrigue, and ultimately expanding your investor influx. So this lead generation strategy was particularly powerful for me in the first 8 months of my sourcing journey. So I was still very much finding my flow, and I needed to raise additional finance for the pipeline of deals that were now regularly coming to me because I was making such headway with the estate agents. I now needed to open the doors to investment. So how do you do it? Well, it's really very simple, guys. You draw up a fictional deal. Now, it has to be in the same level of detail that you would provide if the deal were real life. So you must include the stats, you must include numbers and the area overview, pictures for good measure. It's really important to highlight, guys, that a dummy deal that you put out as bait should reflect the goldmine area in which you're sourcing. So if you're sourcing, let's say, buy-to-lets in Leeds, the deal that you put together should be reflective of that and not HMOs in South London, okay? It must be reflective of what your services are. So what you'll then want to do, guys, with this fictional deal is post it into deal threads and ask for engagement. Post it into deal threads and ask if these types of numbers are of interest to anyone that they could get in touch. Now, this is a powerful strategy, guys, and it serves sourcers particularly on 2 levels, because A, it opens up the doors to investor leads, but B, it also allows you to see what the level of interest in your particular strategy is. Okay, if posting a dummy deal on your gold mine area based on the properties that you're sourcing with the broad stroke figures that you expect to be working with, if you generate interest on a deal like that, then it's pretty clear to see that you are on to a winner in terms of what the demand is like. Okay, you simply need to nurture then the interest and the imagination of the people who have contacted. Remember, guys, this is a people's game. We're constantly working on know, like, trust. Constantly working on know, like, trust. Guys, I put up a slide here tonight that will show you some of our most recent mentee wins. I do this to show you that the strategies that we have talked about tonight absolutely work. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that if you were really to incorporate and implement the information that I have given you guys over the last 2 weeks training on how that you should try to raise joint venture finance, seek out investors, you absolutely will get results the exact same way that the guys inside the coaching program have got results. Okay, these guys have taken what we have given them and they have implemented it. And let me tell you guys, that is the one thing that makes the difference between someone who is successful on their property journey and someone who is not. You can have all the information that you want. You can read all the books. You can listen to the content. You can attend these free trainings that I do every single week and that other people do every single week. And you can bombard yourself with the information. But if you're not taking the information that we are so freely giving you and implementing it, we will have a conversation in 3 months and 6 months' time and you will stand still while the competition are flying past you. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. So knowledge is power? No. Knowledge with execution is power. Okay? So guys, if you would like to learn a little bit more about what the coaching inside our program at Property Sourcing Made Simple looks like, if you would like to know a little bit more about how we can help you raise finance, how we can help you secure investment, how we can help you through your property sourcing deal packaging journey with our coaching program, you can shoot me a private message. You can put Mentor Me Woman in the comments below and I'll reach out to you. We can have a conversation. I'll be back next Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. with another free live training inside the group. So you know where I'm at. If you want to talk to me a little bit further about jumping in our coaching program and really getting results, let us know. Until then, guys, I hope that this has been really, really useful. Let us know in the comments below what your key takeaways were. And I will see you next Wednesday for another training. Have a great night, guys. Bye.